Hey, good morning, everyone. So today we are going to continue our reading of A Mango-Shaped Space. We are moving into chapter 4. Remember, this is by that author, Wendy Mass. We have a few other of her books in this classroom library. Her book, The Candy Makers, is over there, and also Bob. Both of these are Sunshine State books that many of you have fallen in love with already. So if you've read them, maybe you can introduce a friend to them. This author is the one of all of those. So before we start reading, it's been a couple of days, so we need to make sure that we remember what's happened in the first 3 chapters of that book. So let's just kind of give ourselves some think time to think about what we remember so far. And then is there anyone that would like to share what they remember? Yes, her name is Mia. Good. And yes, she sees letters and numbers and colors. She also sees sounds in colors and shapes. Yep, her classmates do make fun of her because of this. They tell her that something's wrong. They call her a freak. She meets a boy named Billy, very good, that's just like her. And why is that important? Good, because she thought that she was the only one like that until she met him. It is summer, good job. She does not want to start school. Her grandfather died. And now she has a cat named Mango. Very good. And we know that cat's going to be important because it is in the name of the book. So that's a good recap of the first 3 chapters. So we are going to read part of chapter 4. Chapter 4 is really long, so we're going to read probably the first 10 pages of chapter 4. Only 2 weeks into school, and I've already failed 2 math quizzes. Failed with a bright purple, capital F. The note from my teacher is burning a hole in my back pocket, and I know I should give it to my parents. Instead, I'm sitting at the kitchen table, forcing myself to finish the rest of my homework. Zach is actually humming as he does his 6th grade long division. Do you remember who Zach is? Her brother. Yep, good job. Beth was Beth, her sister. Very good. Claimed that she didn't have any homework and is outside gathering herbs in the moonlight. She can't remember ever seeing Beth in the woods before. She isn't the outdoorsy type, which is pretty pathetic considering our house is surrounded by fields and woods. Mango is on my lap, purring away as I pet him. I finished reading the 3rd chapter of Lord of the Flies, which, it turns out, is not about flies at all. I can't help yawning. Reading always makes me tired because sometimes I get so caught up in the rainbow-like colors of the words that I have to read passages over and over. You really could cover your mouth when you yawn, Zach says. Why? We're not in public. He shrugs and resumes his homework. It's your soul, not mine. My soul? I ask. Since when do you know about souls? Oh, I know about souls, he says gravely. And I know that if you yawn and don't cover your mouth, your soul can jump out. I stare at him. Where did you hear that? The internet again? It's common knowledge, he says. You're so strange, Zach. Thanks. It is not a compliment, I assure him. It is to me, he says. I return to the sheet of math equations in front of me. After staring at the swirls of gray for 5 full minutes, I finally throw my pencil across the room in disgust. Mango jumps off my lap and chases half-heartedly after the pencil before lying down to wash himself. I am not a stupid person. I know I'm not. Why can't I figure out this basic math problem? Zach peers at me in surprise. Something wrong? He asks. At least that's what I think, he says. The frustration blots out everything so that all I can focus on is this weird heaviness in my chest. The bubbling up inside me has gotten too strong. I can feel it rising to the surface. Bubble, bubble, simmer, fizz, and boom! So much for trying to be normal. That didn't last long. I push back my chair, ignore the rusty red scraping sound that reminds me of dried blood, and march into the living room. My parents are sitting together on the couch trying to decide if they should be worried about Beth's new hobby. They stop talking when they see me. Okay, deep breath. Here goes. Just blurt it out. I wish Grandpa were here. He would know exactly what to do. I have to tell you guys something. Once the words are out, I am unable to make my lips work again. Have you ever had to tell your parents something that you didn't want to? I just want you to think about what it might have been and how you were feeling in that moment. Touch your head if you've come up with a feeling for that moment. Would any of you like to share why you think you were feeling that way? Good, thank you. Good. So you think it was you were scared, so you didn't want to do it? Anyone else? You didn't want to get in trouble? You knew you did something wrong. Very good. They wait for me to continue, and I almost chicken out, but the boom is still ringing in my ears. I have no choice but to remind them that the one incident in my life I'd hoped everyone had forgotten. I take another deep breath. Remember in third grade when you guys had to come to the principal's office to get me? They think for a few seconds, and then my father says, something about chalk? Right, I say, chalk. And at that moment, I taste the chalk in my mouth. I feel it tickling my throat. What about it? My mother asks. Well, remember I told everyone that I made the whole thing up? Vaguely, she says. What's this about, Mia? Well, the thing is, I begin, knowing there's no turning back now. I wasn't lying. Numbers really do have colors for me. So do letters and sounds. They are staring at me with that familiar, Mia sprouted another head stare, but I keep talking. I bounce around the room as I speak. Each word lightens me a bit more. I want us to focus on that sentence for a minute. Each word lightens me a bit more. Does that mean that Mia is literally getting lighter every word she speaks? Or is it just a saying? Yes, it's just a saying. Now, can anybody tell me what it actually means? The weight on her shoulders about being able to tell them something is going away. Good. It's a good way to put it. Good way to put it. I used to think everyone saw these colors. Then in third grade, I figured out that it was just me. My mind flashes to Billy for a second, but I don't want to confuse things even more, not until I figure out what his story is. I thought I should tell you about it before I got 2 F's on my report card. I dig into my pocket and hand my mom the crumpled note. You have to sign this. I plop down on the armchair across from them, waiting for their reaction as they read the note together. I don't have to wait long. Is this whole story some kind of joke to justify your difficulty with math? Asks my mother with a frown. Because it wasn't funny in third grade, and it isn't funny now. It isn't a joke, Mom, I reply, gritting my teeth. My father studies me for a minute. Do you mean you say you hallucinate? I shake my head. It's not like that. Hallucinating means you imagine you see things that aren't there, my father adds. I try not to lose my patience. I know what the word means, Dad, but I'm not imagining things. My colors are as real as this house. What kinds of colors are these exactly? My mother asks. I can tell she's still not sure whether I'm lying. I try to think of the easiest way to describe it. Each letter and number has its own color, I explain. Like the K is turquoise blue, whether I think of it, read it, or hear it. It's just there, inside my head, plain as day. They continue to stare at me and I begin to squirm. Sounds have colors too, I add, figuring there's no use holding anything back at this point. High-pitched sound gives the sharpest colors. When I hear a noise, I'll see the color and shape that go with it. Shape, my father interrupts. Yes, shape, I say. The colors appear in geometric shapes like spirals or balls or zigzags, that sort of thing. Or sometimes just a hazy patch of colored air. Does this block your vision? My mother asks hurriedly. Does it hurt? I shake my head at both questions. No, it's not like that. It's more, this is your fault. My mother informs my father before I can finish my sentence. My fault? He jumps up from the couch. How are you blaming this on me? All those drugs in the 60s, she says accusingly. What drugs? He sputters. I never took drugs in the 60s. Well, neither did I, she says. I never said you did. This conversation has taken an unexpected turn, and my head is going back and forth like a ping pong ball. Your brother used drugs, she says matter-of-factly, unwilling to give up this line of reasoning. What does that have to do with me, or Mia? He demands. Maybe you inhaled something or passed it on to her, she says, or maybe this is your crazy Aunt Polly's fault, my father responds. Maybe Mia inherited something from her. You know what inherited means? That you get it genetically from your parents or ancestors. My Aunt Polly isn't crazy, my mother said defensively. She's just a little eccentric. That means she's kind of a little strange. That has nothing to do with, I figured you'd think I'm crazy, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. They glare at each other and then both of their faces soften. We don't think you're crazy, Mia, my father says, sitting down again. We just don't understand. He reaches over and takes my hand in his. Do you remember when this started? It's always been there, I tell him, stinging from their words. I bet I know what this is about, my mother says excitingly. I bet it's those building blocks that you used to play with. You know, the ones with the colored letters on them. Huh? I say. You probably memorized colored letters when you were a baby, she says, and you've been associating colors with letters and numbers ever since. I think about that for a second, then shake my head. That can't be, I say. That doesn't explain. I'll run to the basement and get them, she says, ignoring me. I'm sure they're still in the old toy chest. What's going on between the mother and the father right now? They are arguing. Does anybody know why they're arguing? It's kind of hard for parents sometimes if they think something's wrong with one of their kids and they don't know what it is or how to solve it. Yeah. They're trying to blame the other one so that they don't feel that way, that it's their fault. Good. And mom has the solution. She does. And with that solution, why do you think that she's going for those blocks instead of something else? Good. The blocks are just a thing that she memorized. It means she's even brighter than they thought she was because she memorized something from a long time ago instead of the unknown about something that they don't understand, as Dad's words were. Very good. She's off and running before I can stop her. My father and I just look at each other. Time passes very slowly until she returns. Cradling a few dusty blocks in her arms, she holds up one in front of me. It has the letter Q carved on each side in faded red. What color is this? She asks. It's red, I tell her. See, she says gleefully, I'm right. The Q is red, I repeat, on the block. But in my head, it's dark silver, like the color of Dad's helicopter. My mother doesn't say anything. She just keeps turning the block over and over in her hand. Well, my father says after a long pause, we'll just have to go see Dr. Randolph. I'm sure he'll be able to help. Over the years, Dr. Randolph has cured us kids from everything from chicken pox to broken bones. He means well, but he's getting old and a little forgetful. For the last few years, he's called me Beth. I even heard him call Zach Beth once, but Zach denies it. Dad, the last time we went to Dr. Randolph, you said he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Sharpest tool in the shed, that's another idiom that we've heard. So we talked about, like it's raining cats and dogs before. What does it mean to not be the sharpest tool in the shed? Does anybody know any other idioms? When pigs fly, cool as a cucumber. Very good. All right, so as we go through this book, we're going to continue to make a list on the board of idioms that we come across as we keep reading. So keep your ears open for those. He goes into the kitchen and opens the cabinet with the emergency phone numbers posted on it. Mom is still staring at the block as if she's trying to see what I see. I know how frustrating it is to see something differently from someone else, or in my case, everyone else, and I feel sorry for her. I have to give Mango his pill, so I stand up to leave. Mom breaks her gaze away from the block and looks at me solemnly. Why didn't you come to us before? She asks, sounding hurt. My throat tightens. I tried to, back in third grade, but no one believed me, remember? I'm glad you're telling us now, she says, reaching over to hug me. It feels good. Mom's not usually the touchy-feely type. We'll find out what's going on, she assures me. Don't worry. I nod and leave her holding the cue up to the light. Mango is asleep on my bed, wheezing his mango wheeze contentedly. He springs up as soon as I open the box of tuna-flavored cat treats. Without my colors, Mango's wheezes would just be wheezes with no comforting mango puffs. Is that worth giving up for good grades? I guess I have no choice. After all, everyone else manages just fine without seeing them. So Mia is contemplating whether getting the Fs in school and having her colors. Which one would she rather have? She likes her colors, but she also doesn't want to fail school. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to think of something you really like to do, or an outfit you really like, or hairstyle you like, or accessory you really like. And when you have that one thing, I want you to stand up. Very good. Okay, so what are some examples? Fortnite, bike riding, swimming, baseball, squishies, your long hair. Good. Okay. Oh, your headbands, your bows. Okay. Now I want you to think, would you give that up for an A plus in math? Just think. He gobbles down the treat, never suspecting a pill is hidden inside it. He's so trusting. I give him a few more treats without pills in them, and then he yawns in my face, and I wave away the icky tuna breath. That night, I go to bed early and dream that Dr. Randolph has turned Mango into a stack of dusty building blocks. Every time I pile them up, someone comes and knocks them down. I can never turn around fast enough to see who it is. Okay, so that's where we're going to pause for today. But what do you think of Mia's colors? This is going to be your activity that you head back to your seat with. Do you think it's weird, cool, awesome? Do you want it? You'd never want it? And I want you to think, once you decide how you feel about the colors, how would your life be different if you had what Mia has? And that's going to be your writing prompt for today. We're going to continue this chapter tomorrow, and hopefully we get some good news back from the doctor and we learn what is going on with Mia.